This mouse is so freaking cool. It's got three things that I never knew I needed in a mouse, starting with the action ring button here on the side, which is basically like having a Stream Deck right at your thumb. Then there's the horizontal scroll wheel, which is an absolute game changer for any kind of productivity work. And then the MagSpeed scroll wheel, which automatically switches from ratchet mode to free spinning modes. And all of this can be customized, which we'll get into in a moment. First, let's unbox it and take a closer look. As soon as I powered on the mouse, the very first thing that I felt and heard were like these actuator motors that kind of felt like when you're starting up your car and you can feel the engine turning over. It was quite surreal. And since it's fresh, it goes straight into Bluetooth pairing mode, and the haptic feedback gives the mouse like this pulsing heartbeat. My PC detected the mouse straight away, but I was so mesmerized with what was happening in my hand that I didn't take the opportunity and I had to go and manually set it up. But anyway, it's the little tiny attention to detail that was honestly a wow moment for me. Alright, so the MX Master 4 has got two options. Well, four, but two main ones. There's the standard and the 4 Mac versions. The standard comes in two colors, graphite and pale gray. I've got the pale gray. Then there's the Mac version of this mouse, which comes in space black and white silver. Yep, that's right. White silver. Anyways, either way, it's variations of the same mouse. All of them have the same hardware, but the Mac versions are supposed to be optimized for Mac OS right out of the box. The standard version is the only one that comes with the Logi Bolt USB receiver, which I needed for my setup. I bought this MX Master 4 because I needed a mouse for my Mac to improve my editing workflow. And when using my G502X, I was getting sick of always having to take the USB receiver from my PC to connect it to the Mac. However, the MX4 has dual connection modes, and I'll come back to that, but one of the things that took a while to get used to was the weight of the mouse. Coming from lighter mice to this one, at 150 grams, it's more than double the G Pro X Superlight 2. But I very much like the ergonomic shape of the MX4. The feel in the hand at the peak here, it sits snug in the lower groove of your thumb, and it eliminates any straining in your hands. When I went back to the G502X Plus, this was noticeable right away, and I all of a sudden felt a strain in my hand I never noticed before. I mean, it's maybe a placebo effect kind of thing, but it's there. The clicks on the mouse are so freaking quiet. I'm going to do a sound test just so you guys can hear that one. For reference. This is the scroll wheel in ratcheting mode. And once you click down on the haptic ring and you select your quick actions. And for reference now, if you look at the G502X Plus, big difference. I'll do a proper comparison to the G502X Plus and G Pro X Superlight 2 in the coming weeks, but for now I'll tell you that the build quality is pretty solid. The plastic body feels more premium than that on the G502X or the GPX-S2, and the scroll wheels are aluminium instead of plastic. The MX4 has PTFE skates, but it feels super grippy, almost like it's scratching on a cloth mousepad or even a bare desk. But I'm currently looking at a set of Feet Glide skates to replace these with, so hopefully it'll get a bit smoother. Okay, so what I find really exciting about this mouse is this action ring button here on the side. And apart from its haptic feedback features, you can customize that one button through the Logi Options Plus software, and you can even assign shortcuts based on the program that you're using. So for example, you can set a profile for DaVinci Resolve and set up 8 shortcuts around the action ring, which when you hover over each one, you get this nice haptic feedback through the mouse. You can even set sub actions based on the main action. As I was saying earlier, you can even set this up kind of like a stream deck at your thumb by setting up macros that execute a series of actions. For example, I have set one up to run all the platform dashboards I use for the channel. You've even got things like basic widgets, switching between paired devices, clipboard management, and that's just to name a very few. There's honestly so much that I haven't even had time to properly go through all that you can do with it. I also really like the horizontal scroll wheel here on the side, and there's not much to say about it, but it's fixed a massive pain point that I've had when I'm editing my videos on DaVinci Resolve. And now I can basically scroll left and right through the timeline. I can scroll up and down through audio and video tracks, and I don't have to use keyboard shortcuts or use the scroll bar anymore. And speaking of scrolling, that MagSpeed wheel is absolutely insane. I always look to mice like the G502X Plus or the G604, which have got mechanical like scroll wheels with buttons here to activate between ratcheting mode and free spinning mode. But this does all of that automatically. You can scroll slowly and really feel the notches, or flick your finger and off it goes zooming through pages. It also has a button to manually set scroll modes, but I don't really feel like I need it. Both of these scroll wheels can be adjusted independently through the software to react in your desired direction and speed, and I'll show you how that works later. Now I know I keep saying this, but this is another one of the main reasons for me buying this exact mouse. So again, one of the biggest and best things this mouse has that I mentioned earlier is the dual mode connection with Bluetooth and USB with the provided Logi Bolt. This way you can pair up to 3 devices and switch between them all pretty easily. It was incredibly annoying having to take the USB receiver for the G502 out of my PC every time I wanted to use that mouse with my Mac. Now I've got the MX4 paired to the PC via Bluetooth, and I've got the Logi Bolt receiver that came included with the mouse plugged into the Mac, as I'll mainly be using this one with the Mac, and I find that it responds better in OS X with it. Bonus points as well to Logitech, by the way, for making this Logi Bolt USB-C, so no need to use any adapters, but -1 point for not including a USB-C cable to charge the mouse. Look, I know we all have a million USB-C cables by now, but still, and speaking of charging, when I unboxed the mouse, it had 55% charge, and after 4 days of use on both PC and Mac as my main mouse, it's dropped to 50%. Now Logitech claim battery life is up to 70 days on a full charge, so I'll put that to the test with my long-term review, but I mean, so far, I'm very impressed with the battery life. And I'm actually also really impressed with their cross-device workflow. So if you've got a Mac and a PC, for example, they've got this program called Flow, which is built into that Logi Options Plus software that basically lets you use the mouse on both devices at the same time, and you can even transfer files between both of them. It's actually pretty fantastic. Like, all you need to do is basically head into the app on both of your devices, arrange the screens on the app, and then you can pretty much move your mouse between one device to the other. And to get it to work, you just move your mouse over to the edge of one device, and it automatically just shifts over the functionality to your other device. Look, it basically just switches inputs on your mouse itself from device 1 to device 2. So it's like you stop using it on one and then you start using it on the other. But I happily figured that one out myself. You can even copy files from one device and paste it onto the other. But I honestly have no idea how that works. To me, it's like it's magic. And look, it's not as fast as sending files through something like Local Send, but it's not terrible either. And when it comes to the buttons on the mouse, you can pretty much remap everything except for the left and right click buttons, all through the Logi Options program. So you can change the gesture button to instead mute your audio or take a screenshot, change the front and back buttons to adjust volume, or instantly open a session with ChatGPT. But I've kept it as is for now because the gesture features has movement actions. So let's say you press down the gesture button, all you need to do is move the mouse in different directions, and you can control things like your virtual desktop setups. You can set it to adjust media, you can scroll through windows, adjust your different window sizes, and yeah, there's so much more. As I mentioned earlier, you also have this action ring button on the side that you can remap to do, from what I can tell, anything and everything. Customizing will unlock so much potential with this mouse that it's kind of mind-blowing just how much you can do with it. A year ago, I thought that the G502X Plus had potential as a productivity mouse, but It's like comparing a Corolla to a Ferrari, honestly. They both fundamentally can do the same thing, but the experience is so much better and more detailed with the MX4. Other than just remapping buttons, you can customize the mouse speed and scroll functions by either setting speed percentages or by DPI between 200 and 8000 for those of us who are used to gaming mice. You can change scrolling directions, you can change scrolling force, which is how hard you feel the notches when scrolling in ratchet mode, and you can enable smooth scrolling to make websites look smoother, but I personally haven't noticed the difference on PC or Mac. And you've also got Smart Shift, which is the automatic function of the MagSpeed scroll between free spin and ratchet modes, and you can adjust the activation sensitivity of that feature too. The force required to activate the action ring button on the side can also be adjusted to either make it easier to press or harder depending on your preferences. And I have to say, as a mechanic by trade, this is so freaking cool because there must be multiple actuators in this mouse to control all of these things, which is probably what you hear winding up like an engine the very first time you start this mouse. Anyway, you can even set up something called Smart Actions, which basically executes specific actions when you perform certain things on the mouse. So for example, you can create a task that states, if I press the middle button, it will trigger the haptic feedback on the mouse. It's pretty cool. But you can do other things like say, if I press the switch to toggle the scroll mode, open Microsoft Word. I know that's silly and you wouldn't do that, but you can if you want to. Again, there's so much to do here to improve your workflow that I'll follow this up in my long-term review. The extent of customization that's already available with this mouse, and Logitech reckons there's more to come, it's pretty next level for any kind of productivity work. Basically, if you use your mouse for anything other than general web browsing or playing games, the amount of shortcuts that you can assign to this thing, it's pretty mind-blowing to the point that it's beyond my comprehension. I honestly feel like once I've had a chance to properly sit down and dive into it, I might not even need my Steam Deck anymore. All right, so I've glazed this mouse enough now, so let's talk about some of the things that I don't like. And a lot of it is nitpicky things, but the first thing is that I really don't like that there is separate software for Logitech's productivity items and their gaming items. You have Logi Options Plus that you really need to install to get the full potential out of this machine of a mouse, but it's just more software that needs to be added to your device. I have a few Logitech G devices, so I never really minded before as they all connected and operated from the one program which is called G Hub. But I think Logitech needs to just make one program to cater to all devices. We're in 2025, I'm sure that it can be done. Second, and this one could be a wear-in kind of thing, when scrolling horizontally, at times it feels like the scroll wheel is rubbing against something, but from the outside you can see that it isn't, and I'm hoping that it'll eventually fix itself, kind of like the squeak that I had on the back button on my G502. And last thing is the weight of the mouse. I never thought I'd be the one to complain about heavier mice, and I get it. It's got a bunch of hardware inside like those actuators that I love so much, and the weight does feel evenly distributed, and it's probably even weighted up to intentionally give it precision and that heavier is better quality mentality, but it's a lot of weight. It feels like you are making an effort to push it around. Don't get me wrong, the ergonomic shape has relieved palm strain I never knew I had with gaming mice, but whether or not that weight may cause concern somewhere else long term, time may tell. Look, all in all, after 1 week, I can honestly say that I recommend the hell out of this mouse. It's a solid 9 out of 10. And I have to say that out of all the things that it can do, the thing that surprised me the most is just how well this MagSpeed wheel automatic switching from ratchet to free spinning mode, just how well that works. For $120 US, you honestly can't go wrong. And it's not often that I buy things that I have zero regrets with, believe me. But it does depend on what you're going to do with it. So productivity workers, whether you're a creator, you're an office worker, you're drowning in spreadsheets and PDFs, or if most of your work involves multiple devices, worth every dollar. But if you're a gamer, not so much. I gave it a crack with Marvel Rivals, and again, with the weight, I noticed my response was slower. I mean, I do suck at the game, don't get me wrong, but still, I could tell a difference pushing around this mouse, and having the side buttons so small and close together didn't pair well, at least for me anyway. And with that, I'll wrap this one up here. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to follow this up with a long-term review after I've used the mouse for a few more months. I'm also going to drop a separate comparison video to the G502X Plus, And I might even feature the G Pro X Superlight 2 in that as well if there's anything relevant there. So if you've got any kind of specific workflow or I guess even gaming things that you want to see, drop it all down in the comments below along with your thoughts on this video overall. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming tech content that looks at things a little bit differently, and also to join our growing community on our road to 5K. Thanks again for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.